and referral.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So when you were new and you were handling those first 24 transactions, what was the biggest aha that you can remember happening during that time? Like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have known this, or
Sure. Some things that in the beginning, I knew nothing about contracts, or just anything. So I was just told to go out and like get the business and then we'll help you like once you get these clients. So that's kind of what I did. And I just relied on, other people in the beginning to help me. But in the beginning, I did have to work all buyers. So my first year I had 23 buyers and 1 listing. Which working buyers, especially in today's market, is going to be a lot more of a heavy workload, just with the buyers not turning over as quickly with low inventory. So that was, a challenge to manage. I just really kind of, during like my free time, I would just really study the market so I would be the expert. And I just really got into my own rhythm with how I did buyer appointments, how I did consultations. And it was really that helped me to just get clients to want to work with me because I had no experience. So it's not like I could say I had been in the industry for 5 or 10 years. I just always did such a good job preparing for my appointments that they never asked me, how long have you been in the industry? Because if they did, I probably wouldn't have done well with that question. So I really, one piece of advice would be always over prepare and over deliver. So even for showings, I would spend like 30 minutes prior just gathering information kind of about that neighborhood or pricing in that area. So I was always the expert when somebody asked me about that on like a showing.
so you really know how you really needed to know how to dive into MLS and pull the data and get the information, which really, it's not that difficult. It's just diving into it.
Yeah, and like a lot of people would ask about pricing. So one area that was really easy for me to get an expert in on quickly was condos, because it was kind of easy to be an expert in condo development. So I would study the ones like in my area that didn't have pet restrictions. So I knew when clients would ask me, I have a 85-pound dog, I could just spit off the top of my tongue, like, the condo developments that allow that. So condos is kind of where I really started because it was easy for me to just get more comfortable with pricing in there also.
And what does your business look like today as far as buyers versus sellers? And, is it evened out, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so right now I probably could have had a lot more listings in the beginning had I had more confidence and known the right questions to ask, to know that a lot of my buyers were actually needing to sell or had sold. So right now, as far as listings and buyers, I'm at about 60-40. So 60% listings, 40% buyers.
That's good.
Yeah.
Very good. What are your unit goals, action goals for 2020?
Yeah, so prior to last year, my goals were always very aggressive. So I was always at about $15 to $20 million and at about like 60 to 75 units. And that just wasn't healthy for me overall, like for a work-life balance, especially doing it on my own with some buyer agent help and just like one transaction person. So I actually cut my goals in half this year, which is kind of different, but I don't want to do more than 10 million or 40 transactions because I know that I can have the life that I want if I keep it within those numbers.
And that's a very nice book of business there.
Yes, absolutely.
How did you come to that conclusion that this is really what you needed to do?
Yeah, it was, in the beginning, I was like, I can't wait to be so busy. I just want to run around and help all these clients and do all these things. And then once it started to happen, I realized that it wasn't so fun. Like I was always on my phone. Sometimes it was even hard to go to bed at night because I would be thinking about these transactions and deals. And I just remember in, I think it was April of 2019, I had 1 week, it was 9 accepted offers, 7 new clients, 22 showings. And like after that week, I just thought to myself, I can never really leave and go on like a vacation if I want to. I just can't unplug. So that kind of was my awakening, and I got sick with vertigo and some other health issues because of how much I was taking on. It was just something I had to do, and I had to be good with not being number one all the time, like in a sales position, but having more of a well-balanced life in all areas of my life, not just the business, but just to be more well-rounded when it came to like physical health, emotional, spiritual, and mental.
Love it. So I'll stop right now for just a little bit. What questions are out there from this beautiful team that we've got today of 22?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yay!
I have I was wondering, when you got that busy and your health started to decline, like, why didn't you leverage and like hire an assistant or hire a person that would show the houses to your clients instead of you having to go on showings?
Yeah, I did have a, when I came from, so I just joined Keller in 2018. So at my old company, I did have a full-time buyer's agent. Coming over to Keller, I didn't know how busy I would be. And I should have planned a lot better with hiring a full-time transaction person. But I mean, I was fearful that I was thinking I wasn't going to do like $5 million. I just had, because I didn't know what it was going to be like coming here with not having the systems that I had before. And I ended up doing, I think, 17 million last year. So I projected way wrong. So now I have a full-time transaction manager, and that has helped tremendously. And I also have just another friend of mine who works at Keller who does help me with showings. So once I reach my max of client workload that I'm able to take on, I do bring her in, and then I pay her referral fees off of the business.
So you have a max of, okay, I'm here right now, and now I'm going to, so what does that look like? How is that?
Yeah, so my workload before, like I would have probably 10 to 14 transactions at a time, not counting the clients I was taking out, and all the other stuff. So now, as far as like boundaries that I've kind of set in the business, I don't want to have to take on more than 3 or 4 active buyers at a time, and that would be my max. So I know that once I hit about that 3 to 4 mark, I need to start looping Shauna in to help with some of these clients. So that is kind of almost my ticker to go off in my head that I need help. And it kind of also depends too what type of clients I'm working with. So some are going to be a little bit more high maintenance. Some are going to turn over a little bit quickly depending on price point they're looking in areas. And I know that some are going to be with me a little bit longer just due to the competitiveness of the market right now, that we might have to look at quite a few more homes and put in quite a few more offers before we get something accepted.
So how do you introduce this person that's helping you to your clients? What does that sound like?
Yeah, so one thing that I do is I really set expectations in the beginning. So I always take the first call with the client. I talk to them. I have kind of like a buyer consultation. I do a lot of mine over the phone right now just to manage my schedule better. And then I always let them know that once we're out at the first showing, we're going to go over these things again and we're going to chat further. But I just want them to have just a really well-rounded knowledge of how this buying experience is going to look. I do tell them that I present it as a positive for them. So I just say, due to the competitiveness of the market right now, it's really important that I have availability to help and serve you. So because of that, I do have Shauna who works with me, and her or myself will more than likely be taking you on showings. And then I copy them on an email right after my conversation with Shauna, and then Shauna takes over from there.
Perfect. And has anyone said no, thank you?
No, nobody has said that. And that was always like, I think a lot of times we fear things, or we kind of think things are going to happen that don't happen. So my fear was always, if I include somebody in, they're not going to get the same experience they have with me, or they're not going to want to work with me because they're not working with me, it's with somebody else. So I think it's very important how you set it up, and how I really edify Shauna in my conversations. She is the expert, and she's a great partner We actually used to work together at Victoria's Secret for 15 years. So I just say we've been working together for 15 years. And I always let them know I'm available for questions that they might have that come up. But I haven't had one situation that, didn't work out well when I set it up from the beginning that she would be involved.
So I appreciate that, because I think we get inside of our own heads that it has to be us.
Mm-hmm.
It is how you deliver the message.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, put yourself in a buyer's position right now. If I'm a buyer and I am a serious, active buyer, honestly, I don't care who opens up that door,
Mm-hmm.
just so I can have my agent negotiate on my behalf.
Mm-hmm.
So open up the door, let me take a look at it, and then I will go back to Sarah if we are indeed serious about writing an offer.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how you set it up, that this is another thing I realized too, is that you have consistency. So you have that same person on the most part as your assistant, rather than asking several different agents. And I'm sure sometimes you need to reach out to someone else, but I think having that consistency is super important to your clients. Don't you think?
Yeah, it's worked really well. And Shauna has the same type of a business philosophy that I do, that we just want to serve and love and give back to the clients. So that was really important for me to find somebody who modeled the same way that I operate, so that it would be a similar experience.
Love it. And keep asking questions, guys.
Can I just say, so I met Sarah, I met Sarah a couple of years ago because Sarah sold us our home here in Tosa. So I can contest that she's amazing. And I would never think that she was that busy, because the time she spent with us, and I felt like I was her only client. And now reflecting back, I feel bad because she was so busy, but she just did an amazing job just connecting and making you, like, every step of the way. I felt she was there for us, and it was just an amazing experience. So I can contest just how great you are, Sarah. So thank you for sharing all your inside scoops.
Thank
So
you.
Tracy, do you remember what the buyer consult was like then with her?
Yeah.
Like,
I actually, it was a Zillow house initially that we just started looking. So I saw this home on Zillow, contact agent, contacted Sarah. I didn't know anything about the process, or, this was we bought a home, but it wasn't, whatever. This is our first home basically from beginning to end that we bought. And so it was a Zillow lead, and we did sit down. I barely remember anything, but I know that she was super helpful, and I felt comfortable right away off the bat.
Yeah, with Tracy, so it's kind of reading the clients too. So with Tracy, to be honest, she would not have wanted to sit down and do a consultation with me. Her main goal was to get in that house, and I could tell that about Tracy. So instead of trying to force her to do a buyer consultation with me in advance, I had said I'll meet you at the house. And I asked permission. I said, would that be all right then at the showing if we spend a couple minutes, and we can chat further about the buying process and how that would look if you decide that you want to work together. So I did it for her at the house because she just wanted to get into that house.
That's perfect. So you set the expectation that, yes, I'm going to show you this piece of property, but I would like to have a discussion. Brilliant. Yeah.
So just so that they are aware that I'm going to do it this one time, but we're going to have a conversation and set expectations about how this is going to go forward.
So I hear some, talk about boundaries. What are your personal boundaries when in this business?
Yeah, so for me, I always hated the word boundaries because I felt like if I told a client something, I would lose them as a client and they wouldn't want to work with me and they'd find somebody else. So it was kind of a fear that I had to get over, that if that person doesn't want to work with me because of the way I do business, that's fine. I'm not going to be able to work with everybody. So I've got sheets of boundaries, but I'll just go over.
I love this.
So a couple boundaries for me is I am allowed to have a day off with no explanation. So I don't have to justify if I want to go out to eat or if I want to go get a massage or get my nails done. I don't have to justify that to my clients. I can just let them know. And again, it's setting them up in advance. So if I know that I'm in a transaction and a client is going to be reaching out to me tomorrow, I'm going to let them know ahead of time that I won't be available between these times, just so you're aware, but I will get back to you once I do have that availability. So I am allowed to have a day off. So another thing is that, and again, these are just boundaries for me that I had to do. Everybody's going to be different, but I won't conduct business after 7 p.m. anymore. So I go to bed really early at like 8 or 8:30. But for me, I would just be so stressed out and just not sleep well because I would be doing business till 10, 11 o'clock at night. And I was operating out of every other agent's schedule in this marketplace when they wanted to do business, but that wasn't what worked for me. So my clients, and again, I say everything with them kindly, so it looks like it's, I spin a positive on it. It's never, this is what I can't do for you, but this is what I can. So if I'm in a situation with a client and I've written an offer and that agent isn't going to be presenting till 9 or 10 o'clock at night, before I would sit up and wait by my phone, it'd be 10, 11, midnight. I'd have to reach out to the client. So I just tell the agent, here's my offer. If you have any questions, I'll be available until 7 p.m. Feel free to provide me an update via email. If you have any other questions or what your seller's decision is. And then I set my buyer up and I tell them that, we've submitted our offer. They're going to be reviewing offers later tonight. I promise you I'll reach out first thing in the morning and let you know what their decision is.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Because honestly, they don't really know what's going on behind the scenes that
Correct.
You would get a phone call or even know about it that evening. So love it. Okay.
Yeah. And, the thing I talked about was that I can really only work with 3 to 4 active buyers at a time. So that would be a boundary that I know that. If a client isn't my ideal anymore, I'm good saying that we're not a good fit. So before I would want to help everybody and I would have red flags go off sometimes with these clients just based on some things that they would say. And to me, I took it as a challenge. Like I'm going to be the agent that changes their mind, that I can help them and I'm going to be able to find them a house. But now I don't want that because that client who starts stressful to me is stressful the entire transaction and takes away from my ability to serve and to show up filled up for the rest of my clients.
Give us an example of what that might look like, as a possible toxic buyer situation that you see those red flags. What are?
So my ideal client, I've got like some stuff around like what an ideal client is for me. And one of the most important things is that they have realistic expectations. So I am not going to be working with clients anymore who want, a $500,000 house for $200,000, and they just have unrealistic expectations of what they're going to be able to afford, and in this market, what they're putting in for offers. So that would be something. If a client does not have mutual respect for me on a personal and professional level, I'm not going to be working with them. And that would be a respect that comes to, I had a situation last year where I was with my dad on Father's Day and somebody wanted me to leave and go show them in a house and be there in an hour. And I said, unfortunately, I'm not going to do that. And, I know I talked to you about how showings are going to look. And if I can't serve you the way that you need to be served, then I would want you to find somebody else who can provide you that time and work with you how you want to work. So I don't say I'm not going to help you, but I spin it on myself like I'm the bad person. So I think you need to find somebody else who can better exceed your expectations.
Great.
And then, I have to have clients who follow the rules. So if somebody isn't willing to get approved, if they're not willing to have a conversation with me about how the buying process is going to look, if they're not going to just follow the rules that we should be doing, when we're working with clients, and I'm not going to work with them. So just some clients, that I have had conversations with, it's like the first 2 minutes, I could just tell they're going to be a challenge because they say I'm going to be a difficult client. So I listen to that now right away. I don't try to think that something's going to be different. They're going to be a difficult client.
Yeah. Yeah. We all try to want to save people and think that we can. Yeah. So true.
Or in the beginning, it's so hard to not want to take these deals because you just want some business. So those deals are going to be really stressful to you the whole entire transaction. So I just keep that in mind.
I have
And
a
then
question.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I could wait till you're done with your.
No, go ahead, Laura.
So I was just gonna say, like, I always think in life that experience helps solidify the things that you don't want. You might not know what you want, but you definitely know what you don't want through experience. So looking back at your start, do you think you would have been this successful if you would have placed these parameters in place?
Good question.
I feel like the type of business that I was involved in before with working internet leads, this is the type of way that you have to act with these leads is you have to be available. You have to meet them there in an hour. It's like whoever can call them first. It's a constant game and a chasing. So I don't think I would have the business I had I not started that way. And I'm very grateful I started that way. But I could have made changes with setting better boundaries like 2 years into it versus 5.
Okay.
So I have 4 personal boundaries. What was your last personal boundary?
So as far as, and then I won't operate on everybody else's schedule or time, like in the marketplace. The market right now is running on chaos, and that's not something that I choose, to be a part of. So I just set those, boundaries kind of around that. My clients will always tell you that they always think they're the only client though, and I always give and serve. So it's not that I don't do above and beyond for my clients ever, but I'm working with the clients where when their number pops up on my caller ID, like I'm happy. It's not like, oh my gosh, not this person again. So that's how I can judge I'm working with the right people.
I love it.
I have a question.
Yes.
So do you think, because you did that scramble in the beginning, if it wouldn't have started that way, do you think you would be as successful as you are right now without that experience?
Probably not. I after that year, then, my first 6 months, there was no way that I wouldn't have been able to do probably the amount of transactions that I was doing. But I also had so much more stress. And now I can tell you, I still have a good amount of business, but my life is just so much more well balanced. And I am able to participate in like family outings and do different activities. And I go to bed with a clear head at night. It's not like real estate. I should say my priorities were way off before. So work was always number 1. And now work is bumped to like the number 2nd and 3rd spot.
Cool.
When you go to bed at night, Sarah, where do you put your phone?
My phone is not in my room anymore, and my phone gets shut off at 8 p.m. So I silence it.
I like that.
And I used to sleep with it by my bed, in my bed, just looking for, texts that would come 1, 2 in the morning, like all that. Another thing too with communication, just with clients, I always ask how they like to be communicated with, but then I also tell them how I like to be communicated with also. So it sometimes is asking some of these questions. So I have clients who do prefer to text, but if they are going to text me, I let them know that I don't have my phone on me after 7 p.m. So if you do text, I will respond to you the next day. And again, I do make exceptions if I'm involved in certain transactions where I have to be available, but this is what I try to do the majority of the time.
So are those expectations laid out at your buyer or at your listing appointment, or how do you deliver that message? And
I
when
do
do you?
it right away at the appointment. And then a lot of times I'll recap in an email. So that way we're all on the same page.
Okay, awesome.
Because sometimes on these appointments, clients are excited. They're not really listening. There's just so much information. So a lot of times that's why I recap in emails.
And I honestly do think, just being in my 7th year in this business, that clients do like to know what your boundaries are.
Mhm.
And I could get frustrated over, someone calling or texting me after a certain hour, but it is no one's fault but mine.
Mhm.
And I remember my first, I believe, family reunion or mega camp, Gary Keller came up to the podium and he said, you don't have to answer every phone call and text immediately to your clients.
Mhm.
You're already setting them up for an open invitation, reach out to you and be responded to immediately.
Mhm.
So there's a 411 and there's a 911.
Mhm.
If it's a 911, yes, but very little of those texts and emails and phone calls are 911s.
Mhm.
Most of them are going to be 411s.
Has anybody ever died because you didn't answer your phone on a real estate transaction?
No, but I almost died probably a few times being involved in some of these stressful transactions.
Yeah.
Completely, especially if you have so many of those transactions,
Mhm.
you don't see a way out. You just don't see clarity whatsoever.
Mhm.
Yeah. For ideal client, realistic expectations, mutual respect, the clients must follow the rules. Is there anything else that, how your ideal client might look like?
No, I know a lot of people have some, ideals around like price point or where clients are looking.
Mm-hmm.
I don't set that. Some of my best clients have spent $100,000, and they just are so grateful and refer to me constantly. So I think that's another thing that helped me be successful was my first year, my average dollar sale was $158,000. So I worked with a lot of clients that were spending less, but now come 4 or 5 years later, these are the clients that are now turning over because they were first-time home buyers. They refer to me the most because they were just grateful to be helped. So I will help clients. I don't have, like a price point or anything like that.
Love it.
So what is your average price point now, Sarah?
It is about $260,000.
Okay.
That's a lot of transactions to get to your 10 million.
Yeah, it should be about 40 transactions, kind of around that. So again, that would be my max that I want to take on.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So let's get into advice for new agents. I'm a brand new agent. Help me out. What is some of your top advice points?
Yeah, I've got 6 bullet points here. So I have be you. So, a lot of people, when you get in the industry, you're going to want to try to, mimic or do what other people are doing, but you really just have to be yourself. So I tell everybody to kind of focus on what your superpower is. So a superpower would be something that you do well, that the majority of other people don't do well. A lot of times you'll hear other people comment or compliment and say, my gosh, Janine, you just do so well, like on listing appointments or like engaging with clients. And it's something that comes very natural to you. So for me, it was the ability to genuinely connect with others on a deep level where they feel loved and valued. That's my superpower. So that is what I concentrate on, and I hire out my weaknesses.
Love
So
it. What are your weaknesses?
I'm not good at like the paperwork and like all that detailed stuff. So I have somebody who is phenomenal, and I have to hire that out because I'm never going to be good at that, no matter how much I focus on it. But I know if I leverage my strengths, I'm going to be able to get a lot more out of that.
When you say leverage out your paperwork, what specifically are you talking about?
What was that when you said leverage out?
Yep. When you are leveraging paperwork, what specifically are you talking about?
Yeah, so my transaction person, like, she's just very good on like making sure like I have everything signed and initialed and all the correct documents loaded. And she's really good at monitoring the dates and the deadlines and just being on top of that stuff. She's very, very good at that piece. I am not.
Perfect. She draft offers for you, or do you do that?
No, I do all the drafting, offers, and all that kind of stuff. So she just really helps me. I'm an organized person, but when it comes time to like technology stuff, sometimes that's not my area of strength, like loading stuff into command and finding documents and all that. So what would take me an hour can take her 15 minutes. So I know my hour could be a lot better spent by maybe writing like out cards to clients or checking in with them. You know, that would be something that would be my strength.
Got it. What other advice? Yep.
Yeah, so outserve, outlove, and outgive. So that's my kind of business model, and that goes with clients, that goes with other agents that you're involved in the transactions, that goes for contractors, lenders. You just never know who's going to be your next client. You don't know what somebody else is going through that day. You know, you may be dealing with an agent that's very annoying or just very challenging to deal with, and I always try to give grace in those situations. And just really try to give back and serve others and my clients.
Have you ever been yelled at?
Yes, yes. Yes, I
I
have.
just asked because I was yelled at 2 nights ago. I'm like, I haven't been yelled at in a while. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then your current business is always a direct reflection of activity that you've done 3 months prior. So in real estate, it's very easy to get frustrated when you don't have business coming in like right away. But just know that if you're really consistent with your behaviors, your activities, you're going to get the business. It's going to happen. It just takes a little bit more time to make that happen in real estate.
And don't you think, Sarah, and I can just attest to this,
Yeah.
when you're in the depths of transactions and you're so enthralled with what's going on today, we forget about what's going to happen in 3 months.
Sure.
So especially being new, I found like I was involved with my clients, but I'm doing anything for my future business.
Yeah.
So it's another thing to delegate as much as you can, the things that you don't at and you don't want to excel at, so you can keep and continue to think about your next 3 months. Yeah.
Yeah, and even if, when you're new and you might not have a lot of transactions going on, this is the time to really, like I just remember my first year, I would always get my clients' birthdays and send out birthday cards and just do stuff like that because I had the time. And I still do that to this day. It's not something that I've stopped because I've gotten busier. But the more you can stay connected to your clients, the better. And, I always kind of feel like you have to do 10 gives for every ask. And that's when it comes to like referrals. So I really never talk business with my clients. My stuff is kind of all personal, like when I re-engage and, touch past clients. I never talk about real estate, but it just always turns into real estate and referrals.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like anniversary cards would be an easy thing, like a 1-year home anniversary. So I just start, my first year, I would just plug it in my calendar and then I would send them out, and I still do that. But those are easy ways to stay in front of your client.
How do you reconnect with someone that you haven't really connected with in quite a while, and you think, oh my gosh, I forgot to reach out to someone that came to an open house 3 months ago. We all have that, like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, if I had a client, I'm just always transparent, and I just say, I'm so sorry that I haven't reached out. And then I just kind of start the conversation from there.
Perfect. So number 3 that you,
yes, so I have over prepare and over deliver. So always show up over prepared for your appointments. And for me, that was a big thing on listings when I first started because I wasn't confident. So my listing preparation time would take me well over an hour on my first listing appointments that I went on. But it allowed me to be more confident on my appointments, and I never really got objections to anything as far as, you know, the pricing that I came up with or questions around commissions, or like experience, because I was always scared to go on these appointments for fear that they would ask me like how many houses I sold. So it was really preparation, and I go on these appointments like I'm interviewing, because I believe that I am, because every person always knows multiple agents. So I go on these prepared like a job interview, like when I'm first meeting clients. And that goes whether they're spending 50,000 or $1 million, I show up the same way.
Awesome.
And then I have focus on building relationships more than you do selling real estate. So the real estate business is going to happen as a result of the relationship building. But when you've built a genuine, strong rapport with a client, you only have to sell the home. You don't have to sell yourself.
Great piece of advice.
And then I track everything. So that would be my last thing, is that like winners are trackers. So in the beginning, I would track, for me, it wasn't necessarily initially like how many deals, but it was really important that I did face-to-faces every single week. And a face-to-face for me wasn't just somebody who, like a buyer or seller I was meeting, but it could be like an encounter at, like, I'll just give an example. So like a new Landmark credit union opened up next to me, and I went in there with a big cake that said congratulations and welcome to the neighborhood. And now they let me do their home buying seminars because of that. So my intention wasn't to get business, but it just turned into that because of the relationship building. So there's different things that even though you don't have experience, that you can still get business by those relationships.
Mic drop.
And Sarah, do you find that that's also true by making those connections, encounters with other agents? Because when it comes time to submit an offer, if that agent then knows, if you've already made that connection, that it's easier?
Absolutely. I always try to just, you know, one thing I focused on is always trying to maintain integrity in the industry, professionalism, and be respected by other agents. Because I know sometimes when I'm up competing against offers, an agent wants to know that they're working with somebody who's going to get the deal done, or somebody who communicates well during the transaction, somebody who's going to, you know, not have emotions drive certain things in transactions where things can get heated. So I always try to maintain those relationships as well. You know, an example like 2 weeks ago was I was dealing with an agent, and she had a buyer for my listing, and she's a good agent. I worked with her before, but I could kind of tell something was a little off with her. And, you know, I just called her and I said, hey, Heidi, like, I just wanted to check in, you know, you kind of seemed a little like frazzled, and, you know, I just wanted to make sure you're all right. And she shared with me that her daughter was going through like some treatments at Mayo Clinic, and, you know, she was just really caught up in that. And I said, you know what, why don't I meet your buyer at the condo tonight for you then for like the carpet measurements? You know, would that be something that would help alleviate some of your stress? She was just so grateful. And then I sent her daughter like some cookies in the mail, just telling her I was thinking about her and I'm her mom's friend, and, you know, I hope her appointments go well. So, I mean, it's just like stuff like that that people appreciate, but a lot of people aren't going to stop and do because they're so busy and just focused on themselves, that there's so much opportunity to just help other people out.
That's awesome. I think that when you take yourself away from the quantity of the transactions and you really focus in on the quality, I think that's when life changes.
Yes.
And it's really hard to do when you're new, but I think if you can keep that in the forefront of it's the quality of this transaction. And because that is so amazing and you're going to give them such a wonderful experience,
Mhm.
they're going to refer you quality client. So it just kind of, you know, bleeds on to your entire business, because how you treat others is how they're going to treat you.
Mm-hmm. And one thing too with, you know, referrals that has really helped me is that I always reward the behavior. I don't reward the referral. So I have some clients who will say, you know, they'll email me and say, hey, Sarah, you know, my neighbor is thinking of buying, you know, can you talk to them? I'll talk to them. You know, they're not qualified. They're not where they need to be at financially. I still reward that behavior of referring by sending out a gift card, by sending out a thank you card, because I know that eventually they're going to get somebody good. And at least they're talking about me to other people. So that is one thing that's really helped with my referral business, is just always being grateful, no matter who you get referred to, because it could turn into something else eventually. And if it doesn't, it was a nice gesture on my client's behalf.
Right. So do you have what does your average day look like as far as getting and going, what from start to finish? Can you kind of give us a snapshot?
Yeah, my days are way different now compared to, you know, where they used to be. And it's so much more peaceful waking up. So I get up in the morning, I spend time, you know, something really important is that I start my days off. For me, like, I'm a spiritual person, so I spend time reading and just journaling and meditating in the morning. I usually do that like my first hour. I take my dog out for a walk. That's usually another hour, and then my day kind of gets started. So for me today, I've got a couple showings at 11 o'clock. I have to write an offer at 1:30. And then after that, I'm going to the gym at 4, and then I have nothing after that. So I have a pretty easy day today. But when I plan out my weeks, I always block out in red the things that are non-negotiable for me to move. So that would be my like morning time meditating. That would be my yoga that I plug in at the beginning of the week, and my gym time. Like, those are things that I'm not going to move. And, you know, one thing that I've always noticed with clients is that when they want to see a property and you ask them when they're available, they're always going to say what works best for them, even though they could do other times. So one thing that I've switched now is I say, you know, I know you want to see this property. Here's some times that I'm available. What are some dates and times that would work for you based on this? And again, I'm operating out of my schedule, but not where I'm running around like last minute trying to get clients into properties and not able to book stuff for myself for the day because I'm on their schedule.
And you guys, here. So if you give them your times, they will choose one that's going to fit for them. I love it, because I've learned that too over the years. Respect yourself enough, because they don't know what's going on with you. To them, they are your only client because you made them feel that way, which is awesome. So set your time. They will make it work. They will make it work for sure. So what time do you get up in the morning?
I get up really early. So I'm usually up at 6 a.m. I find that like my most productive hours are those first like 3 in the morning. So I always try to bookend my days where I plan out what I'm going to do in the morning, what I'm going to do at end, and then I kind of filter my appointments in that. So my end time always looks the same as well. I always kind of unplug 7, 8 o'clock. I watch TV. I do my gratitude journal at night. I write in my journal, and then I go to bed.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When it comes to quality over quantity and building the relationship with the client, do you ever send out feedback asking after a transaction, asking, you know, what you did well and what they would have liked to have seen done better?
I do not do that. I will usually do a review. Like I always feel, again, like you have to give a lot before you ask. So the day of closing, it's always about my client. Like I know some lenders I see like give surveys and things like that about the experience. For me, it's all about like the client. So this is an exciting day for them. I'm not going to contact them about reviews. I'm not going to contact them about surveys. I follow up a week after with my buyers with a call or a text just asking how the move went. And then I will follow up with a thank you card after that. And I've got this little thing that I mail out that I can show you guys. And it's basically and this is for buyers, it's a little postcard thing that has a code for a Redbox movie. And then I have a package of popcorn attached to it with ribbon. So I mail that out like 2 weeks after a closing, and it says, now that the boxes are unpacked, enjoy a movie on me. And then it's got like the code with the popcorn. And then after I send that out, I will mail a card out thanking them for their business with 5 business cards in it that says, you know, if they're looking for, or if they know anybody who's looking to buy or sell, I'd love to help.
Brilliant. Do you do a lot of marketing, Sarah?
Marketing as far as like past client, or marketing with like
new clients? So do you have a farm area that you're continually marketing, sending mailers out, that kind of thing?
I do one set of mailers, and that's to my condo complex. So I have listed and sold, I think 6 in here in the past year. And I do postcards in here for just listed, just sold. And then I mail them a packer and a brewer magnet. So one in the spring, one in the fall. And again,
just to that condo complex, or to your?
That would be to my whole entire past clients would get the packer and the brewer magnet, but I do the farming in my condo development.
Okay.
And then
so
like,
how much do you think you spend? How much do you think you spend a year on your marketing?
It would be, as far as that would be, it would be under $5,000. And that would be a database that's well over 250 of, you know, past clients.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So you plan your calendar. When do you plan your weekly calendar? Do you have a set time, day that you plan
I do it on Sundays.
Okay.
So Sundays I do it, and I plan my whole entire week out. And I'm like, I have it in my calendar, but like I'm a big pen and paper gal. So I like literally write down each day. I'll have like Sunday, and then I'll have all my stuff, and then I'll have Monday. So it's plugged into my calendar, but I always do paper.
Yep.
And you know, one thing too, that just, again, these are just ways to stay in touch with your clients that I do, is that I mail out like a lot of cards. So postage is going to be one of my bigger expenses in my business, and cards. So, you know, when all the chaos that's going on in the world, you know, right now with the COVID, I have nurses, and I tag them all like in my database, like nurses. So I mailed out cards to them with like $5 Starbucks gift cards and said, I'm thinking about you. Thanks for all you do. Have an awesome week. I do that for like police officers or any law enforcement. I have teachers. So I try to learn a lot about my clients and then tag them. And that's super easy to do in Command with those tags. But again, that's easy ways to stay in touch where you're engaging, but it's not awkward because you don't have to talk about real estate.
Yeah. So really it gets back to knowing who your client.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really knowing who you're,
or knowing so well, like you're dating them, you know, like that's date your clients, like where you know so much about them. And, you know, it's even just paying attention to like small things they might say. Like I was involved in a transaction with somebody, it's about 2 months ago, and they had mentioned that they were going to go out and celebrate at Maggiano's, you know, that they got the accepted offer. These are some great clients of mine. I called Maggiano's. I had a cake delivered to the table that said, congratulations on your accepted offer. You know, something like that. Like I was listening in the conversation. The cake was maybe, I don't know, dessert was like $15. They loved it. Like it's all they could talk about. But yeah. I tried to do at least one wow experience in every single one of my transactions where the client will literally say, wow, because they're just grateful and I did something out of the ordinary that just made them feel good.
Sarah, do you give a closing gift to your clients?
I do, and I do the same thing for pretty much all my clients. So I have a gal that makes signs for me. So if you go on my Facebook post, you'll see like she makes like, you know, like wooden signs that say welcome home or like congratulations, and then it'll have like their name on it, you know, like their first or last name. So I can kind of show you what it looks like. I do that for every single one of my buyers. My sellers is going to kind of vary, but I try to do that for every buyer. And I know sometimes people will give gifts. I've seen that like are branded around like their company name, but I try to challenge, like make it about the client. Like don't give them a cooler at closing with your name on it.
Yeah.
You know, it's about the client, not you. So yeah, I do that. And, you know, I support this lady then in turn who runs a small business, who now in turn gives me a ton of clients and referrals because I support her. So again, it's just supporting and giving back to other people.
I just want to say in our closing, we received one of those signs and it just feels personalized because our name's on it. So, you know, it's thoughtful and we look at it every day. She gave us these mugs and I didn't even realize you were going to be on the call, but these Tosa mugs. And you know, you think of Sarah every day that, you know, you look in your counter but it's just that genuine thoughtfulness that she has the gift of giving. And it works out for everybody.
How do you gather prospective clients at an open house? And then do you have them sign in? And what do you ask at that open house? Or do you open houses?
I don't do open houses.
Okay.
So that's one thing that I don't do because for me, as far as like leveraging my time, that's just not something that for me personally in the areas that I sell in, I had a lot of success and was getting clients from open houses. So I let other agents hold my open houses, typically like in the office. And I've got a couple agents who do a great job. And then if I get sign calls from that listing, I give them to that agent for helping me out on the open house.
Wow.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm never concerned that I'm not going to have business. I just know that I will always get business because I give back to other people. So it's never in my mind like, I don't want to give this lead away. The lead came in, I'm going to help somebody else out. And I know that I'm good with my transactions that I have right now, and I'll get more next week.
What happens if someone wants to write on your own listing? How do you handle that transaction?
So in that, I would loop in Shauna, and she's the one who helps me with showings.
Yeah.
I just don't like being involved in transactions like that. For me, it just makes me feel uncomfortable, and I'm just not good at doing like both sides of the transaction. I just feel like my loyalties are kind of always to one party. So because of that, I don't want to compromise my integrity, and I will loop Shauna in on that.
Perfect. So it sounds like you have found what you are loving and you're great at, and you're delegating everything else out. So when it comes to lead generation, I think that's really important that you really nurturing your past clients, and then initially when you a lot of the low internet leads. So for new agents, if you're not getting that type of experience, then it probably would be doing open houses. These are people
Correct.
that are most likely unrepresented. But as you move forward, you're going to shift your number one resource for leads. So what you are doing now may not necessarily be your source 5 years from now. I always say find your one or two great things and do that so well that nothing else matters, which is exactly what you do.
Yeah, and if I didn't start off with those internet leads, I probably would have done open houses. I would have studied some of the best teams or agents that do open houses. I would shadow them. and I would just make sure that I had the best open houses. Like I would try to be really successful in that area and just develop systems that work for you. So not all systems that work for somebody else are going to work for you. You have to do what works for you and just kind of make adjustments. And again, like the superpower that I have of that relationship building, that might not be your strength, but you definitely have a strength. You just really have to hone in on that and know what that is. And that'll take you really far in this industry.
Sarah, thank you. I know your time is valuable.
Oh, thank you.
Does anyone have one or two more questions for Sarah? No? Okay.
And I'm available for support if anybody has, anything or wants to tag along on any appointments, listing or buyer, you're always more than welcome to reach out and I can keep you updated on that.
Can you provide your info?
Yeah, it is. My email is SARAHO, so Sarah O, @kw.com.
Awesome.
Sarah, do you have a coach? What trainings do you attend or have you attended in the past?
Yeah, I have, so before I just had a professional coach, that is my brother. I'm just grateful that I have him. He's just a well-renowned coach and trainer for like professional development. But when I had that, there were other areas in my life that were struggling. So I now have a coach for 5 areas. So professional, I have my brother. I have a coach for physical health. That would include like staying in shape and eating healthy and stuff at the gym. I have a spiritual coach. I have a financial coach, and I have a emotional mental health coach / therapist. And again, this helps me to stay well-rounded in all areas, not the one, because one can be really well, but then the quality of life is suffering because you're just lacking in all the other areas. So some of these coaches that I have are, some are trainings like financially. I did, I bought some programs and trainings around budgeting because for me that was very important when I started because I went from having a salary to no income. So I had to get really good at budgeting and understanding how to deal with that income that fluctuates. 1 month you may have a good month, you might have, a big deal and then you don't have anything. So just really important to budget and set aside your tax money is what I can say for that. And then as far as like spiritual, I go to, I'm involved in like a couple different study groups for that. Emotional and mental, I have my therapist for that. And then sometimes I will just, pick a couple people that I admire and follow them and do professional development. That would include like videos and just reading books. It doesn't always have to be attending like seminars and trainings. So just find good people that you trust and, that can help you in these areas. And I would just say plug in and go from there.
Sarah, do you have that on your schedule when you're doing your?
I do. I have that booked. So as far, again, for me in the mornings, like I have, and usually I'm really good for like an hour and a half, and then my mind just kind of wanders and drifts. So I plug in the important things that I have to do in hour and a half power sessions. So if I want to do some personal development, I will usually do that in the morning for an hour and a half. I might do it again later, like an evening session, but my concentration level isn't good past an hour and a half. So I try to schedule my most money-making productive activities in the morning for me because that's when I'm most awake.
Yep, makes sense. Sarah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And good luck to everybody.
Yes.
Okay, bye.
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 Wow, Janine, good call on guest speaker. I've never met Sarah before, so that was actually fabulous for me. And just to see with the how everybody struggles I mean, she didn't exactly say because she's very positive, but to see how everybody struggles with little things in life/business and how to control where you're at, because anybody who's been doing real estate for probably 6 months, I'm going to say, will find that you are running your tail off and you wonder if it's really worth it, and you're not going to miss things, or you should not miss things, but you do miss things because you just don't have your boundaries and your limits. And you know, just throwing it out there, the personal development thing is one thing that I'm missing, I know, especially after COVID. Everybody kind of got, okay, people say that they didn't, but whatever, they're all lying. In a little bit of a slump, because if you're in real estate, you are a people person, or you should be at least. Not that I like people all the time, but you know, to get your head game straight.
I liked where I think, and it's very easy to do this in whatever business, but one that is 24/7, or if you allow it to be, is that she's no longer putting everything in one bucket. She's feeding a lot of different buckets, which is her entire self, and it's not just going into her business. And I know it probably doesn't even make sense to have those thoughts when you first start out, because you want to be successful, you will be successful. I think though that because she had such an amount of success in the very beginning, how do you like somewhat put the brakes on that and go, wait a minute, I need to stop and fill all these buckets. So if you have that mindset in the beginning, I do think that longevity is going to be in your favor, because I do see that people burn out, or things aren't happening fast enough because they're putting everything into this one bucket and you're not filling the others. So if you have more of a even playing field and you're conscious of your day, and again, it goes back to time blocking. If you do not time block and put your non-negotiables in first, and when you're going to be lead generating, or when you're going to be writing your letters, the whole thing can fall apart quickly because you're going to feel out of control. So you can control your day. When I started out, I had to have an appointment every day, 5 days a week. If I did not have an appointment, I did not do my job that day. What was I doing? So what if I didn't have an appointment? Then I would make one. I would door knock around an open house that I was going to do for somebody. I would go into my local businesses and introduce myself. I mean, those were then appointments. But to not have an appointment for that day, I had a hard time putting my head down at night because I didn't do my job. So the first thing I say to myself is, what appointment do I have today? And if I don't see anything on the calendar, I better find one. That's kind of my job. We can only direct ourselves. So, and I thought it was very interesting that she doesn't do open houses.
That is very interesting. And does anybody remember her average price point?
Yeah.
It's two something, right?
Yeah.
260, I think.
Yeah,
So to
260.
hit the numbers she is hitting, that's a lot of transactions, because I mean, 260 is a pretty, out here. Janine, what's your average price point in Whitefish Bay? Average.
It's a very, I would say 300.
Yeah, that's what we are out here too.
Yeah.
So to look at someone who is experienced in the business, to have a lower price point like that, she is busting her butt.
Yep. She's busting her butt. And to only recently get a transaction manager, that's why I think it's really super important, you guys, to use Focus Title and delegate that business over to them. Let them do what they do well, and you concentrate on, you know, giving, you know, finding out what your superpower is, which I love that she calls it a superpower, that what you do better than most people. What is that? Find it, go with it, delegate the rest. That's a huge takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions or thoughts on today?
No, it was great.
Feedback. So what is, now that she's gone, I mean, I don't mind. Anybody else? What is your big aha in listening to her? And what are you going to work on today? Let's put a game plan together. What are you going to work on today?
I've been hearing
If you're
about
anything like me,
very
if you
woman.
wait till tomorrow, you'll forget.
You know, I think one thing that I keep listening from everybody is the time block. And I have time blocked and I don't follow it, which makes it feel like, then why do I time block, right? So I think that, and I also time blocked, like I scheduled my time so I could work out. And I stopped that because I would always get interrupted or because someone else was a priority. And I feel like it's so important to really follow your time blocking, because if you're doing it, we gotta do it smart. We can't do it when people can go out and look at houses, for instance, but I feel like it's so important to stick to it. And I don't. That's my biggest problem.
So what are you gonna do today to change that?
I'm gonna time block and I'm gonna follow it. I'm gonna stick to it.
So when you say you're gonna time block, are you literally gonna get out your calendar for the rest of the week and the rest of next week and say, from the morning until night, this is my schedule?
Yep.
Paula.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I've done it.
When
And
I
I've done
first
it. It's just
started-
I don't follow it.
Yeah, when I first started and Janine was my PC, she made me email my schedule to her on Sunday nights. I'm like, God, what is with this woman?
I
Are you
know.
kidding me? But you know what? It made me do it. And then I have this guilt thing because I'm a people pleaser. And when I was here on Thursday, she'd say, oh, I got your schedule. How is it going? I'm like, it's going great. And I mostly tried to stick to it, but I knew she was going to ask me about it. So I really, and even if it's round time blocks, so I would always put in my workout time when I had to pick up the kids, or if I had golf, or, you know, I'd put those in first. So I would do something for me, because in real estate, when you start getting to the grind, you can go. And then your kids and your husband and your family and your significant other, they'll all say, well, you work all the time. My daughter always says, don't answer that. Don't answer that phone. And, you know, I usually do. But if we are doing something, if we are out for dinner, I don't answer the phone. Now that I have it on my watch, I'll take a quick peek, but I don't answer it, because you know what? Nobody has ever died in a transaction.
Right.
Well, afterwards they have, but not during, except for
Yeah.
Janine.
Sometimes during the transaction. Yeah.
Yeah.
I put my phone away.
Elizabeth, I cut you off. I'm sorry before.
I just wanted to say that I've been hearing about this legendary woman, and I'm so glad that even on a Zoom call, you guys introduced her to all of us, because I know Amanda Schroeder totally loves her. Everybody loves her, but she's a superhero. She's
Oh, yeah.
amazing. So,
And she is really open and willing to talk about her past experiences. And, you know, she just briefly touched on it. She got really, really sick last year, where I don't think she could get out of bed for a couple months because of her vertigo. And I believe her family stepped in and helped her out, but she was, you know, incapacitated for a while. And I'm sure, you know, that whole mind, body, spirit, you know, is all in one. So your body starts reacting to the stress that you are carrying and the overload. And it was a real awakening of how she conducts her life. So she is very protective and has these amazing personal boundaries. And I love, because she kind of gave me an outline prior to, and I love to see is what her ideal client looks like. So she is totally aware of what that ideal client looks like. And she's very, you know, open to letting someone go if it is not a right. And you're going to notice that the more you get into this business of who is not going to be a right fit, one transaction is not worth your reputation or your mental health. Mm-hmm. So I can honestly tell you that we've had a few in the past that were really chipping away at me in the beginning, and it's hard not to take things personally. Now we bless and release. Kumbaya. We're not the right fit. And it's okay. It's perfectly, let them be someone else's crazy. It's okay. If they come to you in the beginning and you meet them and they're angry and they're hostile, typically that's only going to escalate when you're in a business transaction. So that is a red flag. Be very, very careful. Set your boundaries immediately up in the front, and it will be that much easier to let them go if you have to.
Janine, do you then do you offer somebody else to them who you know might
Somebody who
be
you don't like?
better? Well, that's just the thing. It's kind of a double-edged sword. If they're that much of a pain in the neck, you want to show that you're trying to help them, but and maybe there is somebody who's really good with dealing with difficult people.
Yeah. So usually, like in my case, if because Jay and I are partners, if Jay cannot relate to someone, then I usually step in. And then if they start wearing me down, I'll have him step in, and then we'll both meet together and say, you know what, we both tried 100%. Let's just release these people and let them find someone else. Now, I got a referral from another Keller Williams agent on a listing that she said, I don't have the bandwidth for these clients any longer. I can tell you what's happened. I want them to stay with Keller Williams. Can I hand them over to you and give me whatever it was, a 25% referral fee? I knew what I was getting into. And so then I interviewed that person and basically gave them my standards. And of course, now that was the person that yelled at me 2 nights ago, but woke up with, an apology from that person. So I kind of know what's going on with them, so I can understand it. But no, if it is not a right fit, I'm not going to spend a lot of time with those people. So I'm picky too. I'm interviewing them as well as they're interviewing me. It's hard to do when you first start out because you just want the business.
Right.
But you have to remember your personal boundaries too. Right?
And personal safety. I had a potential listing appointment for this coming Friday. Someone that reached out on Facebook and didn't know them from Adam. I C-capped them. No.
Okay.
Oh, yikes.
No, not with a violent past, no.
Right. And something like
agent.
Yeah, something like that. You could just eliminate and say no, thank you. But if it's someone that you haven't met and you're uneasy about it, always bring someone with you. And don't be afraid to Zoom the first consult. I did one yesterday because it was in HorrorCon. I was like, HorrorCon, can we Zoom? Can we FaceTime and you show me your house? And just time management. And if it's something that I didn't really want to, grab, then I would say this was awesome, and then eliminate.
I mean, that's a great idea, especially in this day and age. Zoom is very acceptable. If that
Yeah.
was 6 months ago, okay, we didn't have Zoom. Who am I trying to kid?
Right.
Or we didn't know what it was. But with everything going on, it's a great idea to use Zoom to your leverage.
Yeah. They literally were FaceTiming me and I went, okay, wait, go back to that corner and put your phone up to that ceiling. What is that I'm seeing? Is that past water damage? Is that a current leak? I literally room by room, it was so easy, you guys. It took a half an hour, which could have been 3 hours of my day. Gave them a laundry list of things that they needed to do before we put it out to market. Boom, done. I may never go to that house. I mean, I may never. I can list it. Yeah. So take advantage of the technology. So how I came across, I've worked with Sarah before, but she actually wrote an offer on a listing that I had on the market last week. And I loved her cover letter. It was a little bit about her. Thank you for considering this offer. You are working with an experienced agent of 6 years. And it didn't even have to be that. It could be just a little bit about yourself. And it was the first offer I've ever received that tells me a little bit about who I'm going to be possibly working with. It was just 3 or 4 sentences. And I thought, well, this is unique. I like this. And that's when I called her and I said, hey, Sarah, join us. I want to learn more about you. So she does some very unique things. She's really into serving and loving and giving. And that is her superpower. It may be something different for you. It may be you're very analytical and that could be your superpower. That's Jay's. He loves the numbers, very analytical. That's what his gift is. So everyone has a gift. And what is yours?
It must be exhausting. And I noticed that she goes to bed at 8 and gets up at 6. So that's 10 hours of sleep, right?
Yeah, well, I think she said she watches TV and she journals. So I think she's, headed that way at an early hour. And good for her. And she doesn't have her phone near her or any electronics. I started doing that. I cannot tell you the difference. I'll wake up and see that people have texted me at 10, 11, 12 at night. I don't want to know about it until the next morning. It's not important. It's nothing I'm going to do about it at that time anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's impressive how you keep your mind from being polluted.
Well, it was 6 years of being polluted now. You learn what you will learn fast, the boundaries that you need to set aside. But I do know that there was an agent, and honestly, I thought, I don't think I would work with this person who had every single event and personal things on their voicemail of, I am doing yoga, and that, it was all of this, basically, don't bother me because I'm busy. Oh, and I don't work the weekends. So leave your message and I'll get back to you on Monday. And I thought, well, who in God's name is going to be calling an agent and, having them represent them when they're not working? So be careful, but I do like if you put on your voicemail, I will not be available calls or messages from, if it's your day off, 9 to 5. And I will be, returning phone calls if need be later on that day. I think that's super important because then you can put that phone away and enjoy yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard when you're in the middle of negotiating an offer, but you'll have to look at your dates and deadlines, all that kind of stuff. Next week,
Connie. Oh, sorry.
yeah. No, go ahead, Laura.
I just have a question. I really want to utilize all the tech that's available because I think it's really good and will help me prevent me from doubling up on work. But I'm a real write it down type of person. And I also want the backup. Do you recommend, I'm trying to find a planner that is organized in a way that's good for this business. Do you recommend a kind of planner, or anyone will do?
I used to write everything down in a planner, and then I just found that I was spending a lot of time going back and forth from my planner to my, so I just use my Google Calendar, and it just kind of, I just have all of my appointments on here. But most importantly, like this Friday, it says JW off, I'm off. But I have everything in here, all my dates and deadlines, my morning time. If I'm having my non-negotiables, I plug those in. I'm like Sarah, I do my calendars on Sunday and I put in all my non-negotiables. And I just kind of do week by week.
Mhm.
That's all I can handle is looking at that week snapshot, unless they're plugging in for other vacations and stuff. But anyone else have a good calendar, planner?
I'm obsessed with my passion planner. Recommended by Amanda Schroeder. I have all the colors of my pens. I time block everything. I color code everything with whatever I'm doing. So it's awesome. If you want to talk to me more about that, hit me up on Facebook because I can go into the weird details. And I don't waste time on it, but I need to be able to write it down so I can follow it. Otherwise, it's gone.
And where did you get that one?
It was actually a Christmas gift from my husband.
So it's just kind of a standard, like.
Yeah, it's like an
okay.
planner.
Okay.
And it's got hours, months, days. You can schedule everything and move it around however you need. But when I first started in this business, I was writing everything in pencil, which meant I wasn't committing to anything. The second I bought fancy pens, I stuck to it because it was permanent. You can't erase that. So.
Love it. I also just kind of go back to her. She doesn't spend a whole lot of money on marketing. So the only place that she farms, one condo building. That's crazy. It sounds like, you know, she said 90% of her business right now is referrals and clients. And that is your ultimate goal. And how does she achieve that goal? Because she's staying in touch. She's remembering their birthdays. I cannot tell you how special it is to get a birthday card in the mail. And I started doing that this past year in sending out birthday cards to my database. So simple, they love it. It's those little things that people are not doing because we have become so tech driven that they love to get something that you really spent that extra time with them. Think how you feel.
You can go to the dollar store and get 2 cards for $1.
Yeah.
You put a stamp on it, it's $1 a piece.
Yeah, it's great. Sounds like she's really in tune with the personal interaction and follow up and keeping in touch. So next week, you guys, we are not having productivity. It's a holiday week. It starts Thursday, just in case you didn't know. We're going to take some time off. So we will reunite on July the 9th. So I hope you take some time today and really reflect on the conversation and maybe explore what your personal boundaries are and what your ideal client looks like. And I leave with this statement: your current business is a direct reflection of your activity 3 months prior. So don't get discouraged or if things are moving slower for you in the beginning, because you're going to hear all these agents, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, I'm so busy. And you're like, well, gosh darn it, I want to be busy. Well, it will happen to you if you consistently focus on the right behaviors. There is a good book that she did recommend, and I have read it. It's called The Compound Effect by Lauren Hardy, and I'll put this in here. And haven't already read The Miracle Morning for Real Estate Agents, you can get it on Amazon. Get it. That was a life changer. And focus on building relationships more than you're selling real estate. I think you're going to have a lot more fun if you have that mindset that your focus is on building relationships, not on selling real estate. And that will all come then. It really will. Be authentic. Focus on your relationships.
I agree.
All right, we'll see you guys July 9th. And
Have a happy
have
4th, everybody. Everybody have a couple little bomb pop popsicles. Celebrate our great country.
I'm gonna get some now.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.